You're gonna see some arms get shattered, some heads get smushed, some bat ladies get cut in half.
Yes.
Perfect.
The intro of the movie reminded me exactly of Kung Pao. I thought I was watching Kung Pao. I was just waiting for that chosen baby
To get rolled down a
to roll.
hill.
Yeah, or to fight. Like, I thought, like, what is it? Like, with pre Sub Zero when he was fighting, I thought the baby was going to do some Kung Fu, pee in Sub Zero's face, and then.
And then the pea would freeze on him.
Yeah, then he was going to jump out the window and roll down the hill or something. That's what I was hoping for.
All right, from the top.
Uh, Playhouse Reviews.
Warning, this video contains in-depth movie reviews and film discussions, which include movie spoilers of key plot points and may ruin the viewing pleasure of audiences listening to this podcast who have not yet seen these films. The Playhouse Brothers highly recommend watching these films before listening to this episode to ensure your listening experience enjoyment levels are maximized. If you do not care about having movie endings spoiled, please disregard this message and proceed with listening. All right, welcome to another episode of Playhouse Reviews. This week we're going to be talking about Netflix's Night in Paradise, a Korean crime thriller, as well as the new Mortal Kombat movie that's just been released on HBO Max.
Yeah, this is an exciting week. We finally got like our first big blockbuster movie. But just for all our viewers, I am Charlie, and
I'm Jamie.
thank
And
you for tuning in this week. So, James, did you watch anything you want to talk about other than our two movies?
I did watch a movie called Severance, which was a classic kind of 2007 slasher movie about these corporate dudes who provide military supplies to the different governments, and they get lost in a forest for a team building weekend, and a bunch of crazy people start to kill them, and it's very silly.
And you said it's a slasher, but it's also quite a fair bit of comedy mixed in with it too.
Yes, it's a very good balance of a comedy and horror movie. It has some good death scenes. It has lots of jokes throughout, and it has a perfect balance of horror and comedy, which is why it's one of my favorite slashers. I'd say it's definitely up there. It's a good one.
Yeah, I haven't watched that in a long time. All I remember is the first death is when they're doing paintball, I believe, and someone steps in a bear trap.
Oh yeah.
And then instead of just like they keep trying to open it, but they aren't strong enough, so they open it and then it snaps shut again. And they open it and it snaps shut again.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. It's just one of those classic horror movies where all the characters are just like comically incompetent, and then it's just poking
it's
fun.
a UK movie, if
Yes,
I recall.
it is,
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
got kind of like that dry British humor.
And it's similar to one of our last reviews when we talked about Slacks, the movie about a killer pair of jeans. This movie also mocks that corporate work culture
Yeah,
and all that
yeah.
stuff. So like their manager is just like the worst person ever in it, and just continues to lead them down horrible paths throughout the movie, and just gets everyone in trouble and or killed. So it's a lot of good goofs.
Yeah, and I
It's
remember
really
no one wants to be there. They're all complaining that they have to like spend their weekend doing like this stupid team building exercise in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, no one wants to do it at all. Then it just gets worse and worse. So it's just kind of like a team building nightmare, but it was good. What about you? Did you watch anything good this week, Charlie?
So I actually watched a lot this week, but I have just a couple quick ones I want to go up with. So I love coming of age movies. The more indie, the better. But these ones were both Netflix ones. So the first one I watched was Moxie, which I'm going to go over really quickly, which was a fine movie. A girl in high school, she's trying to write like her college essay. So it's kind of just about like rebellion and like standing up for yourself and like fighting for what you believe in. But it's clearly one of those movies where it's like written by old men who think they know how teenagers talk and they don't. I just remember one line specifically where it's like the bully is bullying the new girl and the main girl's like, "Oh, just like keep your head down and he'll leave you alone." And then the new girl's like, "No, I'm proud of who I am and I'm gonna walk with my head held up high." And it's like dead serious. It's not like ironic or anything. And it's like, okay, like I understand like the themes of the movie, but like no one would ever talk like that, especially in high school.
Yeah, I feel like it's I only watched the trailer. It didn't look great. I wasn't sold on it. I was curious about it, but from a lot of the, like your point, the bad dialogue, it's like they're trying to make a point and have a positive message, it seems, but when people are kind of just like speaking like they're giving a speech or something or trying to be like that's the vibe I got, at least from the
Yeah,
that's
that's how I
cringy
felt
to
too.
me.
Yeah, and it felt like one of those movies where it's just like checking boxes, where it's just like, okay, there's like a girl in a wheelchair, check. There's a lesbian, check. There's a trans character, check. And like it's fine if they want to include those, but they did it in a very poor way, I felt, and it's just like has nothing to do with the characters. They just kind of like throw it in to have it there, which like it's fine if they want to do it, but it just was done awkwardly.
Well, it's good to have representation, but I mean, I didn't see it, but a lot of the times, more often than not, especially in like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example, but more often than not, when they throw those characters in, they're very one-dimensional.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're just kind of there, and they don't have that much depth. They're just thrown in to be like, oh, look at we're being inclusive, but it's like if you're not doing
this
something
one
with it.
Specifically to the girl in the wheelchair, like she's kind of like a loner at the beginning of the movie, and like she kind of makes jokes about herself, where they're like she's in the band and they put her in the back, and she's like, oh yeah, of course you put the handicapped girl in the back, and then she kind of joins the team of girls that are like fighting for like anti-bullying and equality and like sexism at schools, and then they still kind of ignore her. Like her whole thing is that she was ignored, and like now she's part of this group, but they still ignore her. It wasn't done well. Like it's fine that I'm glad that they're at least trying, because I know like Hollywood is always like 100 years behind what's actually relevant, but it wasn't done well.
Yeah, I mean, even if it has a good message behind it, if it's just a bad movie, then those things can come off as a little insensitive at times and just bad.
Yeah. Well, that's always my big thing, is like you have to care about the movie on its own before you can start caring about like the themes and messages of the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend too much time about Moxie, because I want to talk about my next coming of age movie, Kissing Booth 2.
Ooh.
So I just want to say Kissing Booth 1, I think we watched that one together.
We did, yes.
Before the pandemic. One is, I love that movie. It's definitely one of the so bad it's good movies. Like in my mind, it's as bad as like Tommy Wiseau's The Room. So I loved it. So I was hoping that Kissing Booth 2 would be equally as bad. So it's not quite as like so bad it's good, but it's equally as incredibly stupid, which made me happy. So I just want to go over a few points, and let me get my visual aid. So whenever I watch these movies about like teenagers in high school, I always like to look at like the other characters besides the main one and see how old the actors are playing them. So I'm gonna hold up my visual aid here and show some of the actors that were playing high schoolers. So I don't know how well you can see on the webcam, but pretty much all of them have 5 o'clock shadows. They all are like definitely in their 30s, and they're supposed to be like 16 and 17. So I just wanted to throw that out there just to give you an idea of how much the people cared about this movie.
Yeah, well, it's just the classic thing where it's like, oh, these movies are obviously very disconnected from what teens are actually like and going through. It's just like probably some old man, some old 40-year-old white dude writing, this is what high school is like, I think. This is what it would be like to be a cool kid in high school, I imagine.
I don't know. This one and Kissing Booth 1 specifically feel like they're written by like middle school girls, that what they think high school is going to be like. Because in the first one, the whole thing was Joey King's character was trying to get like with the playboy handsome one that all the girls liked, and she got him at the end of the movie. Well, in this one, he goes off to college and she's a senior in high school, and there's a new super hot guy that all the girls wants, and now he likes Joey King also, so now she has to decide, does she want the new hot guy or does she want the old hot guy from the first movie? And it's just like so ridiculous. And like it's like the most like white privileged movie ever, where they just like go to this school, their problems are so trivial. Let's see, what else is it? The dialogue's still really bad. One line, so the whole movie's like voiced over by Joey King, where she kind of gives her thoughts about what's going on, but I don't remember exactly what she's talking about, but she says in life you have to lead, follow, or just get out of the way. And I just cracked up because I was like, that's the best line from Idiocracy.
Yeah.
That's that whole movie, and I just cracked up at that. But
in Idiocracy, it's like, God, I always told you either lead, follow, or get out of the way. He's like, yeah, and I got out of the way every single time. He's like, it's supposed to be an insult. Well, I didn't take it that way. So did she get out of the way, or did she lead in this one, though? That's the real question. Was she a leader?
I wouldn't really say she led. I don't know. I didn't really fit with any of the themes I felt. But the movie's kind of a mess, so I don't know. But I'm gonna go on a brief rant real quick. So like,
All right.
the main problem is she wants to go to Harvard because that's where her boyfriend is going to college, but she can't afford it. So she enters a DDR competition where the grand prize is $50,000. Okay. So first of all, $50,000, that's like enough for like maybe 1/4's tuition at Harvard. It's not going to cover living expenses. Like I feel like it's not nearly enough to help. But anyways, so I'm big into esports and I follow a lot of different esports thing. And this is just like someone who has they've heard the phrase esports and know nothing about it. So first of all, the tournament's in like a big arena and the arena's full of people. Esports things are never full of people. Yeah, it's like in like an empty warehouse with like crappy chairs that are falling apart. So then the second is she's doing DDR, but it's not actually DDR. It's DDR freestyle. So they make their own dances. So the steps on the screen don't even matter. And they're not even on the platform half the time. They're like doing flips and shit off of the platform where you step on the arrows that come up on the screen.
But she didn't even do dance in the first one, so it's like I don't remember her playing video games in the first one or dancing. So she just became a great dancer out of the blue over like the one summer before Harvard.
Well, supposedly she was captain of the dance team in the first one, but I had no idea. And then they do have a throwaway line where she started a video game podcast over the summer with her best friend. But I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with anything. They just kind of mention it at the beginning.
I thought in the first Kissing Booth, like that movie was taking place at like the end of her senior year, right? And then didn't it go into summer? Like they go to like...
No, this one started at summer. So I'm assuming that the other one ended at summer.
Okay. I feel like the other one ended with like a big like prom dance type thing. But I can't remember if it was like the older boys going to college or if she was...
The older boy went to college, and that's kind of like the thing about this one is that she doesn't trust him anymore.
So she might have been younger. She might have been like a junior.
Yeah, because she's a senior now and he's in college.
That makes more sense now.
But I don't know. The movie was extremely stupid. The jokes weren't really funny, but it was kind of just like funny because it's so bad. All the actors have 5 o'clock shadows. Like they weren't even trying to make them on. There's like a bunch of scenes where she's driving around on a motorcycle, but you can tell it's a green screen and her hair's like not even blowing in the wind on the motorcycle.
When I watch a high school movie, I want like kids to look like Sam Weir from Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they should look like.
So in Moxie, they did a good job. A lot of them look like teenagers, so that props to them. Except for the main bully, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, who's like 25 and he looks a lot older. But I mean, I thought it was kind of ironic because he's just like such a jock asshole. It was pretty funny. But man, yeah, go out and watch Kissing Booth 1 and Kissing Booth 2, and I'm waiting for there's a third one in the make, so I'm super excited for that.
Ooh, I'll have to watch all three back to back to really get a refresher.
If I had to say one positive thing from comparing the first one to the second one, the first one I remember it sexualizing the high schoolers quite a bit. They got rid of all of that in this one, so at least they learned their lesson.
There were some really bad ones. I remember it was like they went to the beach and there was like a water like a super soaker thing.
Yeah,
there's a whole like slow motion water balloon fight with like a bunch of like.
Yeah, and there's some. I mean, I'm sure the actors are older, but in the movie they're supposed to be like 15, 16, and it was really awkward.
Yeah, and it's like
so there's none of that in this one.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, there's shows that do that well, like Euphoria is a good one, or even the newer one, Generation on HBO. Also, there's a lot of them like having sex and very adult themes, but it's done in like a respectful way. That's like believable and real.
In the first one, it was like comedy.
Yeah. Well, it's just these random like young blonde girls just thrown in a beach scene in bikinis for no reason.
Exactly.
It's completely unnecessary and adds nothing. These like aren't even characters that are really in the movie. So yeah, I remember that whole movie gave off kind of creeper vibes from whoever was making it.
Yeah. But,
which added to how silly and absurd the making.
Oh man, I mean, it was definitely written by like a 14-year-old, and then someone's was like desperate for a book deal, and they like grabbed their 14-year-old's notes and turned it into a script somehow.
Well,
I kind of want to read the books just to see.
How many books are there? I didn't even know that was based on books.
I mean, they're making 3 movies, so I'm assuming 3 books.
I never watched it, but it does remind me of To All the Boys I Loved Before.
Oh,
is that one also a book that kind of like teen?
I think so.
Like teen schlocky romance novels. I mean, they're never going to be as good as Twilight, but I think we'll have to do a full episode on Kissing Booth 1, 2, and 3 and do a full breakdown.
When the third one comes out, we can rewatch all of them.
Well, I mean, enough about Kissing Booth. Should we talk about a good movie we watched this week and hop into Night in Paradise?
Yeah, let's get into our main reviews. So for the first movie, we're going to review Netflix's Night in Paradise, directed by Park Hoon-jung. So what did you think of this movie, James?
I really liked it. It was actually better than I was expecting. I was kind of expecting a more, I don't know, just kind of like a crime drama, kind of like the other Korean one, like my favorites, like A Dirty Carnival or even New World actually came to mind. I didn't at the time realize that it was the same director that did this one.
Yeah.
But I was expecting a lot more of just kind of like the gangster lifestyle behind the scenes of crime. I didn't know it was going to be so violent and just pretty. It kept the pace going pretty fast. Like once it started,
way more violent than I thought it was going to be, especially for a Netflix movie.
Yeah, but no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It reminded me a lot of kind of the older Korean gangster movies we watched that really got us hooked into Korean movies, like A Bittersweet Life or
like
Sunflower.
Man from Nowhere reminded me a lot of that too.
Yeah, Man from Nowhere too. But yeah, this was it was a good treat. Very sad, but very good. What did you think of it?
Yeah, like I said too, it was way better than I expected. I kind of went into it not knowing a whole lot. I just heard it was good, and it looked like the type of movies that I liked. I mean, I always like those Korean crime ones. So
yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised.
I was too. It was better than I was expecting. I really just want to go to Jeju Island now. That place looked cool. It was all filmed there. Looked
It's
very
pretty
nice.
fun. I went there. Yeah,
But
I went there for
is
it's
it?
like Hawaii of Korea. And,
Oh, it looked really cloudy though. Was it as cloudy as it was in the movie, or was that just?
It was pretty cloudy when we didn't go during summer, and it was pretty cloudy. I think it's only nice a few months, like the summer months. It's not that big. We took a taxi like across it, and only took like an hour and a half to get like all the way across the island.
So it's probably like the big island of Hawaii in size for comparison. Or maybe
Yeah,
a little bigger.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good location. Would it be a perfect place to film a movie? Nice little island getaway. The title is actually pretty ironic for what the movie is. Like, the movie's pretty serious and track. There is some like gratuitous violence that's a little over the top, but the whole movie's taken pretty straight. So I don't know if that,
Well, I mean,
was
it's
just
so
lost in
depressing. Like the
translation.
little girl just dies at the beginning, and I was expecting your typical like Korean one where like, the sister needs some medical bills to be paid, so he's gonna have to take on like a risky job or something. But it's like, nope, she dies as soon as she leaves the hospital.
Yeah, that's how I knew it was going to be a different type of movie. Then I looked into it, and it kind of, because normally it's like, like someone gets kidnapped, and there's kind of like that tension or stress the whole time. It's like it's not just his life on the line; it's like his family's, which always adds another level of stress to it.
Yeah.
And I think it was the guy who wrote it, not the same director, but he helped write the screenplay for I Saw the Devil. So it kind of makes sense that it goes that kind of dark route. But yeah, he was pretty depressed from the start. His family was dead, so he's pretty much a defeated man from the beginning of the movie. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of redemption in it, but not as much. I feel like it's just more of like settling the odds or getting the revenge and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a true revenge story.
Yeah. So it was good though. My own biggest complaint, I think, is even though normally I like the over-the-top violence and stuff, some of the scenes just felt a little out of place to me. Like there's
it just kind of got more and more ridiculous as it went on, but
yeah, and it kind of like to the point of like there is some gross violence, but like it's to the point where it's like so over the top you kind of remember you're watching a movie. So for those scenes when like an important character is dying or something, it's like, all right, this is just kind of silly. Like when someone gets,
it's
like,
kind of
shot, like 10 times or just keep shooting through the door. Like I know it's kind of like classic shootout, but like they unloaded like 20 bullets through the door into each other, and it's just so over the top.
And then they're still not quite dead because they need to like say their final lines or whatever.
It's like I know it's trying to be overly dramatic, and that is pretty like K-drama style, but it was kind of, for the rest of the tone of the movie, it was a little much.
Dude, I just want to talk about my favorite part was the one mobster guy that wore all white with the slick backed hair. He was so funny. He made the movie for me.
Like the kind of the not the white haired guy who sucked. It was like the other lead gangster, pretty much.
Lead gangster guy.
It was like representing the chairman basically the whole time.
Yeah, he was he was just so mean to the other guy who the white-haired guy was like a piece of shit. But like he was so mean to me, he's like, oh, I can't even. This guy smells like such garbage. He's such like a garbage human. Get him out of this car. He just like punches him for no reason all the time.
Yeah. Well, the guy deserved it. I mean, he was just awful. Like,
and he sucked too. Like he thought he was so clever doing all this scheming, and he still failed. He failed to like kill the guy. He failed to kill the second in command guy.
Yeah.
He failed to like escape. Like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, let's get into spoilers. So if someone hasn't seen it and they're planning on it, we'll get into it. But yeah, the white-haired guy, I kind of guessed from the beginning when the family died. I had a feeling that he was going to be behind it because they didn't show it happen. I was like, this does seem a little. I was suspicious, but wasn't sure. Then as things evolved and he started selling them out, I'm like, this is just a little too convenient for him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it didn't really matter. I think that.
Yeah, it didn't really affect the plot at all. I mean, it still was a good movie, but.
Oh yeah, it was very good, very very good. I like the scene in the sauna at the beginning when he kind of attempts to murder the chairman. That was good. It gave me like Eastern Promises vibes.
Yeah, yeah. And then I really liked the chemistry between him and like the girl who is also sick. I thought they were pretty good together. And then her uncle, who was the arms dealer, he was a pretty interesting character. I felt, even though he wasn't in it too much.
But he still felt like he had his own distinct like characteristics, and
yeah,
you could tell
exactly.
the dynamic
That's what I liked about
between
it.
him and his niece. But yeah, it was good. And everyone was kind of like a bad guy in it. Like everyone except for like the one main girl, but she was kind of messed up from everything. We're all just pretty horrible, shitty people stuck into that life of crime.
Yeah.
But yeah, their relationship, or even though it's just a friendship between the main guy and the girl, it was very well done. There was enough little humor. They're both pretty much just kind of grasping for strings. Kind of, they both knew they were close to dying, so it was.
Yeah, they both like had the shittiest lives.
Yeah, just awful. I wonder how the one main guy got into it, because it seemed like he was well known amongst the gangster world.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like the one top gang was trying to recruit him, but he was loyal. So I wonder what he did to earn his reputation. It seems like he was just like no one could defeat him, and he just like probably murdered and fought really well.
I mean, it took like 100 stabs to kill him, so he seemed pretty tough.
Yeah. I really like the part where he finally gets to fight his boss after being like beat up and stabbed a bunch of times, and then he like has his boss pinned against the wall and is just headbutting him repeatedly over and over and over again.
Oh my god, that scene, it just went on, and it was so violent. Everyone's just getting punched and stabbed so many times.
Yeah, well, I think the movie, it's like just over 2 hours. So I remember like they get to the warehouse, and then it's like, oh, they have the girl held hostage now. The main guy is like getting beaten up. I'm like, what's gonna happen now? There's like another hour of the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's just gonna be like 30 minutes of them just beating the shit out of each other. In
Okay, so this is what
getting stabbed.
What I expected, because I thought since it was a Netflix movie, it's gonna kind of have like a feel good ending. So I thought for sure, like the girl was gonna grab like because the uncle was like putting the guns inside fish and selling them at the fish market. So I thought like she was gonna grab a gun out of like a fish and kill everyone, but nope, they just murder him and beat her up. Like
Yeah, I know. I feel like she could have tried to get a gun like beforehand.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate that she wasn't a good listener, and then it ended up getting him killed like that. I feel like he might have survived a little bit longer if they had guns and could prepare for the battle. But he didn't listen to her either, so they were both pretty much
he shouldn't have gone to the airport.
I thought for sure the movie was going to be over, though. Like, I thought they were just going to kind of let her live or something, or she was going to get killed too, and the movie would be over. I was not expecting her to just go shoot everyone.
Everyone. I love that scene too, because the cool gangster guy, when he comes out of the room and then the other guys kind of like push him out, he's like, what, you think this like wall is gonna block the bullets? He's like, you gotta do what you gotta do. Like, okay, just shoot me. And he's like, oh, he's still so cool even at the very end.
Yeah, well, when they set it up, like you think he's gonna be like really back at the bad guy who's like awful, and he is definitely a bad guy, but you didn't realize the main antagonist was actually the good guy's boss. And so he, like that dynamic of him starting off as like a little bit better than just you see how horrible he is, and then the one guy who you like, the cool guy in the white suit, he becomes better and better and just kind of is the more like almost the comedy of the movie.
Yeah, well, I feel like he's like kind of one of those like old school, like how they like romanticize gangsters, where like he has a code of morals and like he sticks to his code and like does what's right for his men. Where I feel like that's kind of like the old fashioned stereotype of like gangsters, where the other guy's just kind of like the rotten, where he's gonna betray everyone he can in order to like better his own life. Or
yeah, which
whatever.
is probably that version of a gangster is probably closer to how gangsters are in real life.
Exactly. You know, I've seen enough of these Korean crime movies to know that that's how it goes.
Yeah. You never get out. You and your family usually get murdered after you get close enough to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one estranged family member will live, but that's it.
So what sickness did the girl have in it? Was because at first I thought she was like a drug addict, and then I didn't realize.
Yeah, I thought she overdosed. That's what... And then I was like, why is the uncle injecting more heroin into her arm?
Yeah.
It was her medication.
Oh, yeah, besides she wasn't a drug addict, she was just sick. So,
I mean, that's like typical Korean drama. It's like, oh, they have generic uncurable disease that has 10% chance of living after you pay $1 billion.
Oh, awful. And then, I mean, the ending was pretty sad, even though it was great watching her, like, shoot everyone. I was hoping for some sort of redemption for her, like, to go at least, like, to try to get her surgery, you know? So then, like, the main guy, it's like, oh, he did a little bit of good, even though his actual family was murdered.
Yeah, like, she could have killed him and then, like, hopped on a boat to America or something because she, like, knew smugglers or something, but nope. They didn't want that feel-good ending. They wanted that bleak nothingness ending.
Yeah, which, I mean, even if she did survive, she seemed pretty traumatized or traumatized.
Yeah, she was before she was in the movie. Seemed pretty shitty life, and then after her crush died in front of her, it got even shittier.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of the point of the movie. It's like, even though they're both dead and basically on like their island is kind of like in their purgatory, they knew they were going to die. But the one or two nights together that they had, the name of the movie made it a little bit more bearable. So that's the silver lining, I guess. They had
it's just a couple nights in
laughs.
paradise. Yeah,
laughing about their trauma and impending doom.
Yeah, and her getting blackout drunk every night.
Yeah. I mean, for the main guy to be like getting this far in the gang as he did, it was pretty stupid of him to go to the airport after not hearing from all of his men.
And he was so smart about everything else too. I felt like he like knew like, oh, they're gonna clean up the body, so there's like no point in going back. And he's like, oh, they might have the uncle's house like staked out, so like there's no point. He was smart about everything, but then he shouldn't have gone back to the airport.
But I guess it was just because he was too trusting. That was his downfall.
Yeah,
he trusted the gangster.
His men too much.
But I did like all the action sequences quite a bit. Like when he did go to the airport and was running and like fought a bunch of them in the car and stuff. He just kept going. That was very well done.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, it was very, very violent. Extremely violent. Not as violent as Mortal Kombat though, but the violent was more realistic, I think, in this one.
Not by a whole bunch though.
Yeah, not by much. So, would you? So, I guess we'll use that violence as a segue into Mortal Kombat. But before we hop into that one, would you recommend Night in Paradise to anyone?
I'd recommend it if you want like a gritty crime movie. This is probably the best one I've seen in some time. So I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's very good. It's got a lot of violence. It's got actually good characters and redemption, and it looks beautiful too. It's filmed really well, so it's very stylistic.
Jeju Island is a very beautiful place. So.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like as stylistic as Drive, but this is basically like the closest thing to a Korean version of Drive, the Nicholas Winding Refn movie. So that's gave me similar vibes of kind of like the gangster on his way out, trying to do some good and redeem himself. But much more sad. Alrighty, so should we hop into Mortal Kombat now?
Yeah, let's talk about Mortal Kombat, directed by Simon McQuoid.
Yeah.
So what were your first impressions of Mortal Kombat?
My first impressions was that the intro of the movie reminded me exactly of Kung Pao. I thought I was watching Kung Pao. I was just waiting for that chosen baby
To get rolled down a
to
hill.
roll. Yeah, or to fight. Like, I thought, like, what was it, like with pre-Sub-Zero when he was fighting? I thought the baby was gonna do some kung fu, pee in Sub-Zero's face, and then
the pee would freeze on him.
yeah, then he was gonna jump out the window and roll down the hill or something. That's what I was hoping for. But yeah, it was just, and the dialogue in this movie is pretty cheesy. I mean, that scene was all, I think they're speaking Japanese and Chinese in the beginning.
Yeah, they
scene.
speak both. Yeah.
But so it's not as silly as Kung Pao dialogue, but the rest of the dialogue through the movie was pretty bad and it's pretty silly.
Yeah,
So.
well, that's what I want to mention. So do you remember the other two '90s?
I remember bits and pieces of it. I watched it when I was really little. I remember like Johnny Cage I liked, and like some like the weird the Other World looked really cool. There were special effects and things, but not much of the story. I remember it was very silly.
So I remember the first one when I watched it when I was younger, and I really enjoyed it. And then I'm sure I wouldn't like it now, but it was extremely cheesy. And then as far as the second one, I know now that it's kind of like a meme as being like one of the worst movies of all time, like unironically. And I remember not liking that one as a kid too. I just remember they killed Johnny Cage at the like first 5 minutes of the movie. The special effects are like god awful, and like it has some of the worst writing ever.
Yeah, I think that's really the main thing I remember is just the super cheesy, horrible dialogue.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I just thought it was like a comedy to me.
Yeah, even as a kid, I was smart enough to know that this is not a good movie.
Yeah, it was entertaining, but I think that was one of the first. It's like, okay, there's different types of movies. Like, you can still enjoy watching entertaining movies versus good movies. Mortal Kombat, it's very hard to say it's a good movie, but it's an entertaining one.
Yeah. So this one, I was happy. I feel like they found like a good balance. Like, it was still cheesy, but it wasn't like unbelievably bad cheesy like the older ones. I feel like they walked the line pretty well with the cheesiness.
Yeah, it wasn't like super, super terrible, but when I think they actually tried to do somewhat normal dialogue, it wasn't great. Like some of the lines and things they were saying was just dumb, but
Yeah, well, I think they focused way too much on Kano, which I don't remember the games too well, but like I don't remember him being like a real main character ever, and I feel like he was in it way too much.
Kano was the guy with the laser eyeball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like he was just, I mean, you didn't like him in the movie because he sucked, but I feel like he had like the most screen time.
He was like the main character.
But I think it's because I think all the actors are actual stuntmen. I'm wondering if he was just the best actor out of all of them, because none of the acting was really great in it. Like none of them were because they're all stuntmen and martial art people.
Yeah.
So I think he did a pretty good job though acting, but you didn't like him. He sucked as an actual character, and I didn't find his jokes particularly funny.
It was like some of them were.
Yeah.
I liked it when he drew the little picture of him ripping out the lizard heart, though. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was good. That part was cool when they fought the lizard. That was
well, I have to say I was very impressed that pretty much anytime someone died, it was like a fatality from the game. I thought that was super cool. And then I did like how they actually said like the lines from the game where they say like test your might, and like they even said fatality at one point. So I really like that little like throwback to the games.
Yeah, they did a lot of that. I feel like most of the lines, like those are like, oh, these are their one-liners from the video game.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that.
So that was done really well. So that was good. It balanced the cheesiness pretty good for what it is.
Yeah, I think they balanced it well, given like the material they have to work with.
Yeah, and I think for this type of movie, I don't think they really. That's not like people don't watch this movie for the plot of the story. They just want as much action as they can with cool fights and all that stuff. I really thought that the Sub-Zero special effects for all the ice stuff looked awesome.
The special effects were
really cool.
way better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, the ice stuff looked awesome. That was on point. Just watching that happen was really cool. And I love all the over the top violence and stuff.
Yeah, and like they used a little bit of CG blood, but it looked better than a lot of CG blood.
Yeah.
And when it's so like over the top and not trying to be realistic, it doesn't bother me as much as movies that are trying to be realistic.
Yeah. Well, I think a movie that does a really good job with CGI blood. I don't know, I haven't seen it in a while, but this movie reminded me of it was Ninja Assassin.
This movie reminded me of that too, especially when he like had the chain that was throwing around and stuff.
Yeah. Dude, that chain when he was swinging it around, I just kept thinking in my head of Kung Pao and Evil Betty's at the waterfall.
He's like, swinging the chain. Yeah. Man, we needed to talk about Kung Pao on this show.
There was like, it was just so funny how like a lot of the stuff was like that Kung Pao like was just, like making like a mocking of Americans, like pretending like to make like good martial arts movies and stuff.
I know, I can't even
just
take martial arts
martial
movies.
arts.
Yeah.
Like this movie, oh god, I mean it's better than some of those really like bad '80s ones, but still, it kind of is that same cheesy vibe. And
Yeah.
I was just laughing to myself thinking of Kung Pao in multiple scenes, especially the intro.
Yeah. So a big thing for me, though, as soon as I started watching this movie, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be listening very closely to the music, because if I don't hear the fucking Mortal Kombat song, I'm gonna be very disappointed. And I was very happy that they did have the song. It was a little bit of a modernized, but I did not mind that at all. I was so happy that they had.
They
the
saved
song.
it till the very last minute, though, right at the very credits.
So if you listen very closely, some of the music when they fight is this like the beat to the song.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't like scream Mortal Kombat and say like the names, but when they fight, it does play like the beat to the song. So I was very happy about that.
Yeah, no, the soundtrack was good. It did stay true to the original kind of sounds from the game.
Yeah, it still had that kind of like cheesy like 90s electronic vibe to it, just modernized a little bit. So I loved that aspect.
Sounds kind of like the Prodigy on a sort of
reminds
me of.
Yeah, definitely.
But so my biggest complaint with this movie though was it's called Mortal Kombat. They're preparing for their big freaking tournament that they're gonna have. And then they don't even have this tournament in the movie, just fucking set up for the next movie. And I was like, that's kind of like, I was expecting this big climactic thing, and then it's just, I mean, the battles were cool. The last battle was good, but like, they didn't even go to the fucking tournament. Like, I felt like there was so much stuff they didn't need, and unnecessarily, like them have training in the cave for so long, they probably could have.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm assuming the next movie, they're saving up for a sequel, and the next movie is going to be the actual tournament, because there's a lot more bad guys in the games for them to fight. So
there's a ton. And another silly thing, too, was when Laser Eyeball guy's fighting the girl, and then he, like, lasers off the statue's hand, and it, like, falls on her, and she's, like, smushed by the rock. I'm like, oh, she's fucking dead. And then like the guy with the robot arms lifts the rock up, and she's just completely fine.
Yeah, I thought that was
just
really...
it fell around her.
Yeah, I thought that scene was really weird too, because they kind of both get knocked in that one area, and then the bad guys kind of just leave them there, and it doesn't really show what the bad guys are doing.
Yeah, where did Kane go? Well, they're still fighting, because it cuts back to the main guy and his family fighting, I think.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to the guy lifting the rock. And then I thought the bad guys were already gone, but then no, they're still battling.
Yeah, they're just like standing next to where they got knocked or whatever. I thought that was weird, but I mean...
Yeah, it was a strange... That scene was edited pretty strangely and ended abruptly. I feel like there was they forgot to film something, or like continuity, something went wrong there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the plot is like paper thin. The whole thing when the Sub-Zero first attacks like the main guy, and then Jack's robot arm guy comes and just tells him like, "Oh, you have a tattoo. You're being attacked. Hop in the car." Like they just believe him like instantly, and then they're like, "Oh, because you have that birthmark and I have the Dragon birthmark too, all this stuff with other worlds and monsters and the end of the planet is going to happen." He's just like, "Okay, I'll go with you then."
Yeah, him and his family are just completely okay with it. I think maybe they have like one or two like sentence exchange about it, and then they're fine. And then when he goes off to find the people, he meets that girl and then the asshole laser eyeball dude, and it's like, okay, we have to go to Raiden's cave now to train. And then they just are immediately walking in the desert. There's no scene of him saying goodbye to his family or telling them what he's doing.
And they just believe walking. That Kano knows where to go. Like, I wouldn't trust that guy. Like,
it's just so stupid and just silly. And then he eventually teleports back, but his family, they don't even seem that concerned about like, oh yeah, there's this other dimension. There's this like evil world trying to take over Earth, and like all these people with powers trying to murder us. They don't seem too concerned at all.
Yeah.
Very silly.
Pretty silly.
And then even, I mean, there's so like, I feel like there's been so many chances. Like if those bad guys can just teleport to Raiden's like temple whenever, why didn't they teleport there a long time ago to try to kill like Kung Lao and the Fire Hands dude?
Yeah, it seems like they were just lazy.
Yeah, it's just if they have the ability to go travel wherever they want at any time and are just trying to kill all the good fighters of Earth so they can keep winning 9 years in a row. I mean, I don't know. It just was so... The more you think about it, the more just kind of you realize how stupid
it is. I mean, it's not like you watch this movie for the plot, but some of it is like pretty blatant. in your face inconsistencies.
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned it too. It's like, what maybe you want to get into it later, but when they say like, oh, at the end, like, oh, all right, well, they're trying to kill us, but they've been breaking the rules for the last 9 years. They've been basically cheating and killing everyone not in the tournament, so to make the odds in their favor. But now let's just go do it in our odds. Let's go do it on our terms. And they go do the same fucking thing. It's like, why'd they wait 9 years to like the last one where it's like all the marbles, and basically if they lose this one, they're gonna lose all of Earth. Like, shouldn't they have done that maybe after like, I don't know, maybe the first 2 times I could see it fine, okay. But then like by number 5, if they're consistently cheating
every time,
maybe you should try a different strategy. Like 9 times, it's so like, there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, I have 2 things to say about that. So one, they already know that the bad guys are cheating and trying to kill them outside the tournament with like no rules, where it's like 2v1 and they like use weapons and stuff. Why don't the main characters just get guns?
Yeah.
Just use guns and defend. Just set up a trap. Like, just put like some bombs in Raiden's temple, and when they go there, just blow them all up.
Yeah, I
like it's not like they're like immortal or anything.
Well, they kind of are. I mean, like Hanzo got murdered, then he, after being stuck in hell for like what, a couple centuries, he comes back and then ends up killing Sub-Zero at the last minute. So maybe that's why Raiden knows better than to kill these people, because if he kills them out of their realm, they're gonna go to hell and then get even stronger because they're gonna be training in hell with like Satan. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe that the lore is explained better in the '90s movies or in the.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Maybe
so.
it has something to do with like the prophecy they talk about, but they never really explain what the prophecy is. So maybe like Raiden knows, like, oh, I believe in this philosophy, so I'm just gonna dick around for the first 9 tournaments, and then for the 10th one, we're just gonna bring it back.
Yeah, well, Raiden, he does seem like, because he has some rules. It's like, oh, I can't teleport, I can't get involved with certain people dying, I can't do certain things, because he's kind of like the world keeper, basically.
Yeah.
But the other world keeper's breaking the rules, then I feel like he's kind of selective with it. So he's trying to kind of be like the god character, so like, oh, sometimes bad things happen, but he seems very, like he didn't really realize the stakes. Then he had made that fucking barrier shield to let him train. It's like, you could, and then they have that throwaway line. It was like, oh, I can't protect everyone, but it's like, you're not doing shit. You're like, you've lost like 9 years in a row.
Yeah, you suck.
Like, you're obviously doing something wrong. We should maybe try a new strategy.
Well, if I remember just from the games, it's not like I really studied this plot of the Mortal Kombat games, but if I remember correctly, he's like a half god, and he's also like the shittiest of the gods.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe they're just trying to emphasize that part of the lore or whatever. But yeah, he was definitely incompetent Guardian of Earth.
Yeah, well, I feel like with this movie, they're just kind of picking out characters and kind of things, and like oh, we got to throw in Kane, we got to have these cool lizard monsters, we got to have Raiden doing this, and then like, but they don't tie it together. They're just like, oh, we all want to have this in here because it's Raiden. You know, they kind of have him do his little part and they define his little character. It's the same route as like most Avengers or superhero movies. Like, they introduce all these different people, have them say their lines, have their cool battle scene, and then it's just set up for later, and they're gonna have their appearance and like they come save the day at the end of Mortal Kombat 3 or 4 or some bullshit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they definitely wanted to throw in like as many characters as possible, which I honestly didn't mind. Like, when you're just going to be killing random stuff, just put in more characters to get killed. Like, I'm always a fan of that. And now I know the Mortal Kombat games have like a shit ton of characters, so they could always just bring in more. I feel like this one had all the main characters where everyone likes, like Kung Lao and Jax, and then Johnny Cage is a favorite, which kind of is going to be in the next movie. So I was happy about that.
Yeah, the characters were good. I mean, I think that it is fine. Like, it worked. In my opinion, this movie worked a little bit better than most of the superhero movies. Because with the superhero movies, I just want more action. So this had more action than your typical one. It's not like Snyder Cut, where it's just like 4 hours long of just a bunch of characters not really interacting. At least these characters like were talking to each other and making jokes, and some of them weren't that serious. So, I mean, from that respect, it was fun.
Yeah.
They had good and action was really good.
Like interactions with each other.
Yeah, they had good interaction and the violence was good.
And they did kill at least one main good guy. So at least there's some stakes, because you know that there's like a potential that another character could die. Mm-hmm. It's not like, you know, in the Marvel movies that everyone's gonna live, and if they do die, they just bring them back like Superman. So.
Well, I feel like in this one they'll at least come back like Hanzo did, but just randomly or briefly for like a cool fight kind of type thing. But
yeah, like I definitely wouldn't mind like if the next movie's the tournament, just bring someone back to fight in the tournament, and then they just die again. Who cares? I just want to see another fatality.
Well, I hope they bring Sub-Zero back, because I just loved his cool special effects that using his ice moves. That looked really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what was your favorite death scene or action sequence in the movie?
I mean, My favorite death scene, I think it's just hard to beat when Jax just explodes that guy's head when he just gets his robot arms and
yeah.
just boom. It's like Riccio. It was like perfect. Yeah.
Exactly. Just watermelon head explosion.
How about you? What was your favorite?
That one was really good. I also really liked when was it Kung Lao had his like saw hat on the ground.
Oh, yeah,
And then like that
yeah.
succubus girl just got like halved like an Evil Dead or something.
Yeah, that one was funny too because they set it up like they just like bring her in and then the bad guy's like, oh yes, she's so beautiful and perfect and strong, and then it's like the next scene she just gets cut in half.
So that was really good. And I like the battle where I forget whatever the main guy's name is, but when he fights the four-armed dude when he's attacking his wife, and that was really good.
Yeah,
and
that
his
was
like
it.
power, he just absorbs the energy and throws it back. That was pretty legit. That was well done.
So I just wanted to point out the main guy isn't a Mortal Kombat character.
Okay, yeah, because I don't remember who he was.
Yeah,
Is he a new one?
I looked it up afterwards because I was like, I don't know what it's like. I thought he was going to turn into Scorpion at the end, but then he didn't. So I looked it up afterwards, and I was like, yeah, he's not an actual Mortal Kombat character, which I thought I didn't mind it. Like he was fine, but I thought it was like a weird choice.
I mean, they could. I mean, who knows? But my prediction is in one of the next ones, he's going to have some either a character arc or like some death and rebirth, and then maybe become a Mortal Kombat character we know. This could be like a backstory or origin story. I don't know. I don't know enough about Mortal Kombat lore to see.
Yeah, I don't.
That'd
It's
be
not like
my
I know
guess.
any of the stories. Yeah, I mean now the video games have like the Joker and like I think Jason Voorhees is in one of them now too. So who knows what shenanigans are gonna happen in the next movies?
So my question is, what came first? Did Mortal Kombat come first, or did Tekken come first? Because Jax, he has robot arms in this movie, and then in Tekken, isn't there Jack Yu, who's the military guy with robot arms too? Like the full robot guy?
I don't remember. I haven't played enough Tekken, but I'm pretty sure Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter are like two of the first arcade fighters.
But yeah,
So
they both.
I'm gonna say
that would have been a good
Mortal
battle.
Kombat came first, but I don't know if Jax was first. I don't know what game Jax was introduced in. I don't know if he's one of the OGs or not.
I think he was. I remember seeing his arms. I think in one of the old ones, but I don't know. My Mortal Kombat history is not as on point as it once was
Yeah.
when I was a young lad. But yeah, it was. The death scenes were definitely the best. Special effects were good. I wish there was more. It felt very anticlimactic to me. Like they had their big battle when they fought Sub-Zero at the ice gym.
Yeah, the
But
Sub-Zero
honestly-
fight was cool.
But honestly, I was expecting more. I was expecting like some big like actual tournament. I didn't realize they were just going to snub the whole tournament for the.
Well, I thought it was really weird that like the main guy's like coming up with his plan, and then his big plan is like, oh, just teleport us to where the bad guys are when they're by themselves, and that's like the big plan. Like they should have just wait if Raiden knew where they are, they should just wait until they're like sitting on the toilet or something, and then teleport them in and just kill them.
I also don't know why they had to all go individually to fight all of them. Like if they're gonna just teleport there, it's like just get them isolated, and all 5 of them just teleport or one of them. Then boom, they just murder them. Then go to the next one. Then boom, go to the next one.
With guns too,
Yeah,
like
with guns and everything they could possibly get their hands on. That would
Jax had that shotgun at the beginning, so just teleport him with that and just fucking gat everyone. What else? I mean, Sub-Zero is strong against guns apparently, but what can anyone else do?
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, this movie, it's not as horrible as like from a plot standpoint, I guess, as like Wonder Woman 84 or Tom and Jerry, but it's pretty fucking bad. Like,
Yeah, but I feel like it's self-aware though. Like where Wonder Woman's taking itself seriously and is really bad, this one like knows it's really bad and kind of plays up on how bad it is.
Yeah, and the goal of this movie is different. Like Wonder Woman 84, it was trying to be like a kind of comedy drama or something with superheroes and some action stuff in it. Mm-hmm. But this one, it knows what it is. It's
Yeah, this is more of
now.
like a Kong versus Godzilla rather than a Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like they put a lot of emphasis on the battles, the death scenes, they kind of staying true to the video games and making it cheesy. That was definitely the thing, was to just go all out with the special effects and do as much as they can there.
And I felt like too when he fought Goro, the forearm guy, I feel like that looked better than a lot of this big CGI fights in Marvel and DC movies.
Oh yeah, it looked
I
really
just
good.
want to point that out. That fight compared to like Cheetah Girl versus Wonder Woman and like some of the Black Panther rhinoceros scenes, like it looked way better.
Yeah, this looked really good. I remember when I was watching it, since we got it on HBO Max on 4K, the special effects like for the ice and stuff, or even like Jax's arms, the special effects looked better than like the actual movie props and suits. Like the main guy who had his like suit that absorbs the energy, that just looked like a rubber suit to me. It looked horrible because you could actually see it. But like the special effects, arms and the ice, that looked amazing. Or even like the big monster.
Yeah,
guy.
I felt like all the ice stuff looked really good.
But the monster guy with the 4 arms, he looked literally like the exact same monster from the Warcraft movie. Like, I'm pretty sure that was the same. Like it looks like they just ripped it off almost exactly. But
yeah, and I love the character design too, where they look similar to the video game characters, but they kind of put like a more realistic take on it, so it wasn't like super cheesy. I really liked the girl, Melina, the evil girl with the big mouth. She looked really cool, I thought.
I would agree with that, except for Sub-Zero. I liked his original old outfit with like the blue on it and stuff.
The like the more like 80s style.
Yeah,
almost.
that was like the more kind of traditional martial arts one, not that like tight, weird rubber looking suit.
Yeah, well, I liked Scorpion when he had like the hood on at the end. I thought that was really cool.
That was
yeah,
good.
yeah. It was
But
like an urban Scorpion.
the rest looked really good though. The rest of the outfits look pretty.
Yeah,
solid.
and I liked it when Jax's arm were like the shitty robot arms at first too, and they're all like skinny and like looked really awkward because he's like such a big dude and he has like these little twig robot arms.
I also feel like that when they're all getting their powers, I feel like they all had a good kind of like them discovering their power, except for the one blonde girl. Her power, I feel like she just
It
got
just
it
came,
immediately.
yeah. She just got it right away.
Yeah, which
I thought it was really funny too with the main guy. They're like, "Oh, pain is the best way, so we're just gonna beat the shit out of you until you get your powers."
Yeah. Some of it was pretty ridiculous. It was very, very silly.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think of the big dumb action movies we've watched this year, I think I like this one the best, in all honesty, just because the action and the special effects are so good. Like I enjoyed it more than Snyder Cut because it's shorter. Right? Much better than like Wonder Woman 84. No, it's not 2021. We still watched it. More than Monster Hunter because Monster Hunter was a little weird, but this was more creative and felt like a consistent tone throughout.
Yeah,
the
well, like I
movie.
said, it's very self-aware. It's not taking itself too seriously, and it's a video game movie. I feel like for a video game movie, it's really good.
Yeah, that's very true. And like me, I just love good action scenes that are kind of unique and inventive, and I feel like they did a lot of creative fights and stuff.
Well, I loved it when Scorpion killed everyone at the beginning, like all the generic bad guys with his spinny thing. That was a really cool scene. He's just chopping off arms and stabbing people. Blood goes everywhere.
It was very good. I would agree. Oh,
Dude,
excuse
and
me.
Raiden shouldn't have fucked around. He should have just came to there like 10 minutes earlier when he saved the baby. He should have just came like 10 minutes earlier and saved Scorpion too.
Yeah, he should have. I also don't know why. So what was it that like? Oh yeah, a really funny part that I was laughing to myself at. So remember at the beginning where Sub-Zero comes and kills Hanzo, and then he speaks Japanese to his Hanzo's son before murdering him and his mom. Mm-hmm. And then he speaks Chinese to Hanzo. Then Hanzo's like, "I don't know what you're saying."
Oh, yeah.
And so that was kind of funny. And then fast forward, they go and then they fight. So Hanzo gets out of hell, I guess, to help save his descendant, the main character. They defeat Sub-Zero, and then they're all talking. And then the Hanzo again is talking to the main guy, but the main guy, he grew up in like Chicago. He doesn't fucking speak Japanese, so he's talking to him in Japanese, telling him all this stuff, and then he's like, he has no idea what he's saying. And they don't even address that he can't understand it at all, and then he just disappears. I just thought that was really funny.
Maybe he watches a bunch of anime and picked up a few phrases like me.
And I think also Sub-Zero was speaking either in English or Chinese to Hanzo again, and they're like communicating in different languages, but they have no idea what they're saying to each other.
Well, I mean, he spoke a little bit of Chinese, I think, at one point, but yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I think the only multilingual one was Sub-Zero. I think Hanzo only knew Japanese and the main guy only knew English. I just thought that was really silly at the end, like he's telling him all this like heartfelt stuff and giving him advice, but he can't fucking understand you. But
Oh, and then I also thought it was kind of funny where like when Scorpion and Sub-Zero are fighting at the end and the main guy's just like punching the ice for a really long time. Like I understand he wanted to save his family, but it looked like they were already dead. And then like based on the beginning of the movie when Scorpion's family died, they like died instantly. So I kind of in my mind it was like they're already dead and he's just like punching the ice, wasting time.
yeah, if this was a Korean movie, they would have been dead. If this was Night in Paradise, his family would have been murdered. But I guess they didn't.
Well, I feel like it would have been better just to have them die, and then he would be like more invested in the tournament for the next movie instead of him just like being like, later family, I'm gonna go do all this shit because Jax told me to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they did. I guess Sub-Zero didn't like murder them, like stab them beforehand and then freeze them. But yeah, it was a little bit of a little shaky to me. It just seemed like with the movie logic and how Sub-Zero had been acting, they would have been dead.
He would have killed them like right away.
And then it's like if Hanzo just had fought better at the beginning, then his wife and son wouldn't have gotten murdered either. Like if he had just like
no, he was too slow. He should have got that water faster. That lazy bum.
Yeah, that was kind of funny too. Like he was just there getting water, and then
for a really long time. And then when he dropped the bucket, like the camera stayed on like the water spilling for a really long time. I thought that was kind of funny too. It was like so dramatic.
It was very silly. That whole opening scene, I could not take. I don't know if it's actually that cheesy, or if it just was because of my my memory immediately connecting it to Kung Pao that made it silly. But it was a wacky movie.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was wacky. It was a fun movie though. Like, I mean, I know we're kind of like picking it apart right now, but it's like I said, it's not taking itself seriously, and it was like very fun to watch.
Yeah, this is like what's that your classic reference? This would be a perfect movie if Netflix had a category like movies to turn your brain off of, or like movies to do other stuff with, like
exactly.
have on in the background.
Exactly. Like you just like play on your phone. You're like, oh hey, look, they're fighting. You see a cool action scene, see some unnecessary gore, and then go back to whatever.
Yeah, or it's a good like movie night movie where like if you have like a bunch of people over or something, and then they're all everyone's like talking and shit. You don't have to pay attention to what they're saying. You can just watch them get beaten up and
exactly.
And you won't miss much. You won't miss out on anything. Honestly, it's probably preferred to watch it when people are talking over it, so you don't really notice the bad dialogue or all the plot holes and things.
You're gonna see some arms get shattered, some heads get smushed, some bat ladies get cut in half.
Yes.
Perfect.
It was exciting. It was a little better than I was expecting. I think you didn't say it was bad, but a couple other people who had watched it before I did said it wasn't great. But I enjoyed it. It was fine. It was nice and violent. But I love those violent movies. So
I mean, I always love over the top violence.
So any other thoughts on Mortal Kombat?
No, it makes me want to rewatch the old garbage movies just to see if they're as bad as I remember it. But this one was good, and very good for a video game movie, and I would definitely recommend it. How about you?
Yeah, I would too. If you like kind of big, dumb action movies or enjoy the Mortal Kombat franchise, you'll probably find this movie fun. If you like just over-the-top violent action with cool special effects, you'll probably enjoy this film.
Yeah, I want to say too, I liked it. It's very similar to Kong vs. Godzilla, but I definitely like this one more than Kong vs. Godzilla just because it's more silly.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's slightly like they're both big action movies, but Kong vs. Godzilla is almost like a giant like end of the world apocalypse one, or just like mass destruction is what you're watching for special effects, like all CGI cities getting destroyed, and big monster effects. This one's more of like actual fighting on like cool kind of more of a martial arts direction. So if you like more of the hand-to-hand combat and like actual stunts and people fighting instead of big monsters, and it's more violent,
and it's still ridiculous.
Yes. And Mortal Kombat doesn't have some fucking random plot with 11 from Stranger Things that actually has nothing to do with the movie. So
it's very quick to get you from fight to fight.
Yes, it does. All right, then. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. This is Charlie, and you are...
And I'm Jamie, and this is Playhouse Reviews. I hope you enjoyed it.